The Caribbean is bracing for what could become a fiery chess match. 3 of America's most advanced guided missile destroyers are now steaming toward the waters off Venezuela, carrying thousands of Marines, reconnaissance aircraft, and even an amphibious assault ship. Washington insists this is merely a counter-narcotics operation. Yet, after raising the bounty on President Nicolás Maduro to an unprecedented $50 million, few doubt that the deployment carries a sharp political message far beyond routine Coast Guard work. Caracas has responded in kind, unveiling its so-called People's Shield. Millions of militia members rallied under Maduro's command. By framing the U.S. threat as an existential danger, Maduro seeks not only to project resistance, but also to consolidate his fragile claimed legitimacy. On one side, an American armada bristling with firepower; on the other, a sea of civilian militias. The world now watches anxiously. Is Washington about to transform the war on drugs into a real war on Venezuela? Within 36 hours, the Caribbean waters off Venezuela will become the epicenter of global attention. The U.S. Navy's USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and USS Sampson, all Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, are set to arrive for a mission the White House frames as a response to narcotics trafficking. Roughly 4,000 sailors and Marines, supported by P-8 surveillance planes, and at least 1 nuclear-powered attack submarine, make this one of the most visible U.S. military shows of force in the Southern Caribbean in years. Officially, this is a counter-narcotics mission. In reality, it looks more like a pressure test, a flexing of muscle and an unmistakable political message aimed squarely at Maduro. This escalation traces back to Donald Trump's worldview. From the moment he took office, Trump labeled narcotics a national security threat, linking it to illegal immigration and cross-border crime. For him, the drug war is not just law enforcement, it is a counter-terrorism campaign. That framing justifies direct military involvement. By sending 3 destroyers to Venezuela's doorstep, Washington is not simply intercepting drug shipments. It is signaling that Caracas itself is a critical node in a transnational criminal network, and that the U.S. is prepared to treat it as such. On August 18th, Maduro announced the mobilization of 4.5 million militia members to defend Venezuela's land, sea, and skies. Though militarily outmatched, Caracas leans on symbolism. The militias, first created under Hugo Chavez in the early 2000s, are portrayed as guardians of the Bolivarian Revolution. Today, they number nearly 5 million, dwarfing Venezuela's formal armed forces of only a few 100,000. For Maduro, these militias serve a dual role: military deterrent and political theater. Each mobilization signals that he retains the hearts and arms of the people, even as Washington denies his legitimacy following contested elections in 2018 and 2024. In effect, the militias are meant as proof of popular backing against foreign pressure. The tension is magnified by Washington's bounty on Maduro. In 2020, it stood at $15 million. By January 2025, it rose to $25 million. This August, it suddenly doubled to $50 million, a move Caracas views as public humiliation. U.S. Attorney General William P. Barr accused Maduro of collusion with infamous cartels such as Los Soles, while the DEA claims to have seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to his allies. Senator Marco Rubio has gone further, labeling Maduro the head of a decade-old smuggling network. Caracas, of course, dismisses all this as crude propaganda. But the timing is clear. Washington chose this moment to push the crisis to a breaking point, military cards now firmly on the table. The confrontation is not new. Since the Chavez era, Venezuela has been a thorn in Washington's side, whether over oil, sanctions, or socialist governance. With the world's largest proven oil reserves, Venezuela is too strategically important for the U.S. to ignore, yet also too defiant to tolerate. Caracas has repeatedly used oil as a political weapon, selling cheaply to allies while cutting supplies to adversaries. Washington has answered with sanctions designed to isolate and cripple Venezuela's economy. What makes today's standoff different is that Washington is now mixing economic pressure with overt military power. The risk of sliding from counter-narcotics into outright intervention has never been higher. The U.S. deployment also rattles Venezuela's neighbors. If Washington can use naval forces against Caracas under the banner of fighting drugs, it could do the same elsewhere in Latin America. More broadly, the move fits Trump's hemispheric strategy, tightening control over the Caribbean and South America, reviving echoes of the Monroe Doctrine, and countering the influence of Russia, China, and Iran. Domestically, the operation is political theater aimed at U.S. voters. A hard line on drugs, illegal immigration, and socialism plays well with Cuban and Venezuelan American communities in Florida, an electoral battleground. The 3 U.S. destroyers now converging on Venezuela are more than warships. They are political instruments, floating signals that diplomacy is giving way to gunboat pressure. Meanwhile, Maduro's militias, Washington's bounty, and the swelling nationalist rhetoric all transform this into a high-stakes geopolitical gamble. The U.S.-Venezuela confrontation has entered a new phase. The question is no longer whether Washington will challenge Caracas, but how far it is willing to go and at what cost.